and welcome to episode 3 of the Wrexham Legends Lounge podcast. This is getting harder for me to say week to week, with myself, Andrew Pollard, as a host, and joining us today on episode 3 is Neil Wainwright. Wally, thanks for joining us. How you doing, mate?
I'm really good, Andy. Really good. A little bit of a half day off. I'm working this evening, but yeah, I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing well.
So you've sandwiched us in. Massively appreciated.
No problem at all.
Yeah, there's a whole lot to get through with yourself. There's your time at Wrexham, which was relatively brief in the grand scheme of things in terms of the club and also your career, because you've gone to play for, I guess, another, probably 15 years after that. So we've got that to touch on. We'll touch about your time away from Wrexham. We'll touch about coaching. We'll touch about, well, there's a whole lot of questions coming in from Wrexham fans as well to get to. And there's some important food questions, which I'm a fan of Neil Wainwright, but this is going to make or break it, I think, for me. One of these questions you might not ever come on this again, mate. And also we've got your all-time Wrexham 11, which that's going to be interesting to get to. That's probably the bit I'm looking forward to the most, I think.
There's a few scribbles and a few re-putting names in and a few more scribbles. So yeah, I think I'm set.
Tipex, mate. Tipex makes it look perfect then. Just to say as well, this is in association with Hill Street Social, where we hope to get to soon in person. Maybe not yourself, Neil, because you're up in Morecambe these days, but when you're back in the area.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully, I'll get down there at some stage, especially when I have a game with the lads and stuff. So yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. I'd just say this is the Wrexham Legends are a group of former players organised by John P.D. Morris, who before the pandemic will get together once every 2 months to play games, to raise money for local charities for causes, and also to provide some support for local football teams. So all being well, before the year's out, or hopefully by the end of the summer maybe, we'll be able to get back to playing some games. I know there's a few irons in the fires as to friendlies, which should be great just to get back out there playing, I guess, really. And speaking of John P.D. Morris, you might not know the name, but he's the guy who created the Wrexham Legends. And episode 2 of this podcast is now out, which he is the guest on, just to give it a brief rundown of putting together the Legends, why you put the Legends group together, the reasons behind it. And also he picked his all-time Wrexham 11 with a really random back four made up of 3 left-backs. And episode 1, of course, is available. Mark McGregor, who was on that. That can be found on YouTube at Wrexham Legends Lounge Podcast, and also on the usual podcast feeds, which they're slowly dripping out to now. But Neil Wainwright, right, after I got all that bump out of the way, wind it back in. Your time at Wrexham, it's a nuts one, because I remember you coming into the team and it was like this whirlwind of, we've had, Craig Skinner and Martin Shaw been playing on the wing, and we on the Brian Flynn, we'd had that formation where it was almost 3 central midfielders. We'd have Wardy be a little bit more left, but tucked in rather than as a winger. And so it was just, a lot of it was just focused down the right. And then you broke in 97, 98 season. And then it was really good. And then it was almost over before it even got going. It was strange. It was just like this really mad time where I think in total, I had a look through some old programs, and it was 9 starts, 13 appearances in total, 3 goals. I think it was a last minute or late winner on your debut, coming off the bench against Blackpool, possibly. It was a whirlwind. How was it when you look back at this? Because Wrexham fans still hold you in such high regard, even though it was only, I guess, 2 years as a pro, really, 1 year half a season in the first team, because then you got injured towards the end of that year and moved to Sunderland.
It was 4 years in total. So obviously 2 years as an apprentice, and then 2 years as a pro. And you always look at. So I wasn't part of the Wrexham youth setup. Before being an apprentice, so I was at Crewe up until I was sort of 16, and I was really small, so they weren't really taking a chance on me at that stage. And Mike Buxton came in, and then kind of the rest was history, really, as far as that goes. But for me, it's exactly as you describe it, really. That sort of 6-month period was just an absolute whirlwind for me. It was the debut. I couldn't have picked a better debut. Didn't think I was even going to be on the bench because there's only 3 subs, and then all of a sudden I'm going on. I think I came on for Rooster, with about 15 minutes to go. We were 1-0 down, and fairy tale winner in the last minute away at Blackpool. So from there on in, it just got more and more sort of unbelievable, really. I still look at that sort of game and go, throughout my whole career, I've had some really, really good moments, really high moments, really low moments. But that for me is still the best moment I've had in my whole career, scoring that first goal in the last minute and getting mobbed by the lads, and just that sort of almost recognition in my head to go, do you know what? I'm here now. Can I stay? Is a big question after that.
Yeah. What's that feeling like? Because something that I'll never get to. Well, I'm well past it now. I'm retired. My knees fell out. I never quite made the grade. But it's something that most fans of the club or any club, any football fans really, will get to experience. But what's that feeling like where, okay, you've been in and around the first team, but the moment that you get told, like, right, it's Blackpool away on whatever, on a Tuesday night or a Saturday afternoon, and there's 10 minutes left, and you get the call from Brian Flynn where, right, Neil, you're going on. How do you even get time to process it? Or is it just, again, whirlwind?
It's strange, really, because what happened was I was kind of involved in a lot of squads. But again, going back to the 3 subs, I was almost like not a sub, but always travelling sort of thing. So I was in a fair few squads. And then I think it was 28th of December. So my mum and dad literally went to every single game when I was growing up as an apprentice, as a young pro, reserves, everything. I think my nan was over for Christmas, and I said, don't bother coming all the way to Blackpool. Just look after me now and have a good day and all that. I said, because I'm not going to get on. I've not got on yet. I'm not even on the bench yet. Lo and behold, I'm named on the bench, and mum and dad never let me forget it. Really, they'd seen that 89th minute winner from Wainwright come up on CFAT, but it was yeah. Again, just weird. Again, it was kind of like, right, here I am on the bench. Didn't think I was going to get on. 15 minutes to go, get called over. Not really much advice, really. I think Joey just said, "Go and be a hero." I think that's all he said. I can't even remember what Brian or Kev might have said at the time. But yeah, Joey said, "Go and be a hero." And unfortunately enough for me, I managed to get the winner. And again, all that bit was just, as you say, the whirlwind's a great description of it, really.
Yeah,
really was.
That's brilliant. Surely that's all any player needs, especially at Wrexham, is just to hear Joey Jones kind of a quick arm around you of like, go make yourself a hero. It's like, it's stuff of dreams. That's
it. I mean, and again, obviously I watched Macca's podcast and how highly he spoke of Joey, and Joey was great for me as well in many aspects. I would imagine I came through as kind of a soft, maybe sensitive young player, and Joey's got this knack of being able to look after you and have that arm around you, but also toughen you up at the same time, which I think is a really, really good talent to have. And I don't think many coaches I've certainly worked with have got it. I mean, the times he took me to the gym and tried to make me a little bit stronger, and I couldn't even brush my hair by the end of the session, to the times he's played behind me in reserve games and friendlies as a left back with me being left wing, which you're playing games like that and you almost learn sort of 20 games worth of progression and learning about the game, because you've got someone who's been there and done it at the highest level, and you've got so much respect for. So within that sort of period of time, so many people helped me at Wrexham. But yeah, Joey was always the one that was always the honesty of it. I think the honesty of sort of Joey working with you, I think it just it makes you feel 10 foot tall when he's praising you, and you know you're not up to scratch when he's telling you not to as well.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there about how a lot of the time you play predominantly off the left at that point, and Joey would play as a left back. But when you're lining up, say in training, how's it? Obviously, you'd be on different sides of the pitches normally, but the times you were up against Joey, how's that as like a 17-year-old smallish winger against this kind of tough as nails, been there, seen it all, will happily, even though you're one of his players, will happily go in on you just to, like you said, maybe to toughen you up?
Yeah, don't go near him. No, it's again, as I think Macca mentioned, we used to do young v old and stuff, and it was kind of just like don't annoy the staff who you're playing against, basically. Yeah, you want to win these games as a young team, but don't annoy the staff. But no, it's just great. It's great being in that environment with staff like that. Obviously, the 3 staff we had at the time played football at the highest level, so the respect's there straight away, and not just as a pro, but as an apprentice there as well, and just coming through the ranks, and it makes that sort of transition a lot easier when you do go from sort of apprentice to first team, because Joey was always in and around the youth team and the apprentices as well. So it wasn't as if there was like a big divide like at some clubs potentially, certainly nowadays.
Yeah. Were you always confident that, because I mean, at times we've seen over the years, even back then, it was a case of there could be young players that were maybe good enough, but they didn't get that chance in the first team. But were you always confident with Wrexham that if you could prove your ability in training, you get a chance? Because, I mean, at that point in time, we'd shown that, under Brian Flynn, we'd shown that we were prepared to blood young players. Neil Roberts would be in the squad at that point in time. Mark McGregor, you talked about Gareth Owen had come through the ranks, Wayne Phillips, Lee Jones, Chris Armstrong, Steve Watkin, Phil Hardy, Wayne. I guess we got Darren Brace from Norwich, young, but then he went kind of straight into the first team. So we'd shown at that point we were more than willing to give the kids, as it were, that chance to prove himself.
I guess back then I kind of didn't really think about it in that sort of respect. I think you look at it and you obviously got your goals and you want to break through to that first team, but I certainly wouldn't have said I was confident of getting a look because of past players. Again, probably at that age, I probably lacked in a little bit of confidence at times, and certainly when things went well, that was sort of the time you go, do you know what, I've got half a chance here, and then you just keep plugging away and just keep working, really, which is kind of how I've tried to sort of live my life, really. But yeah, an interesting one was just the transition for training was really good. So at the club at Morecambe at the minute, so we train at different venues, whereas when I was at Wrexham, we train mostly together, whether it be Lindisfarne, whether it be down at Lex or wherever it would be. And youth team would be one place, the first team would be the other, and they'd call a player over. So my first look at first team training was just, I think they probably had a man down. He's doing well over there. Let's bring him over and have a little go. And all of a sudden you're going, man, do you know what? Well, let's see if I can show him what I can do. And that's, again, the whole progression and the whole sort of help from the staff was really good for young players at that time. And I think that's kind of a byproduct of why so many players got a chance in the team.
Yeah, and you were kind of in and around the first team squad, I guess, for let me work it back, 96, 97, the year we missed out on the playoffs by 4 points, got to the FA Cup quarterfinals, beat West Ham, beat Birmingham, beat Peterborough, and then went out to Chesterfield. And then the year you got your breakthrough into actually playing in the first team, getting minutes on the pitch, was the year we missed out on the playoffs by goal difference. What was the mood like around that, I guess, at that time? Because they were really, I was talking to Mark McGregor about this, but they were really successful times for Wrexham. At the time they were successful. In hindsight, they were even more successful. But I don't think the fans, we really appreciate that at the time. Whereas now, obviously, we're in the National League for 12 seasons running, and you're thinking, man, we were so close to going up to what will now be the Championship. So was it a disappointing move, or could you appreciate at the time the achievements that you kind of got as a squad, as a club?
No, I think it was exciting. Certainly, it's more exciting when there's sort of more of a best way to describe it, more of a spectacle because of the FA Cup, because we're doing so well in the FA Cup. I think you kind of find it special. The games, obviously, as you say, against West Ham. I always remember, I'm sure I was probably an apprentice at the time when Kizza scored against Ipswich at home. I think it was a ball boy. I remember it quite well, and it's those moments where you're going, do you know what, you just get caught up in the moment all the time, but then afterwards you're going, do you know what, this is class, this is brilliant. As a young player, and as I'm sure as a fan as well, you're going, wow, these are great times. Going to Old Trafford, scoring goals at Old Trafford, even though you don't come away with the win. What day out that was for the fans. I think we travelled as well with the fans in a fan's end at the time, and it was brilliant, great experience for us. And then, as you say, the cup quarter final and the years that followed, and just missing out just on the playoffs, it was difficult, but it's times like that where you go, do you know what a good side. And again, looking back on this team I've picked, it's like some good players, some really, really good players. And I think you're probably right in a respect. You do tend to forget that, certainly at the time or on reflection.
Yeah, it is. I'm watching some older footage that I think it's Rob Clark, who's a Rex fan, he's a lovely fella, who he's uploaded onto YouTube in the last couple of weeks, it seems, just a load of like 90s season reviews. So like you get the whole, the VHS, the videotape that would have come out at the time for like 90 minutes, 2 hours. You just get to watch it all. And it's like, the football's great. The players are great. The subs are great. Like everything is just, I think there was a lot of it at the time where the fans, we didn't quite appreciate it. My excuse was I was young. So yeah, but it was a great time.
Players as well. It was a team full of great characters as well. So you had all sorts of different dynamics within the dressing room, and I think that's sometimes that helps the team as well. You had no sort of shrinking violets in there.
Yeah.
And everyone had sort of that determined mindset to go and win football matches, which is again, that's massive.
And what was refreshing when you started to get games in the first team as a fan at that point was, like I said, you were predominantly a left winger then. And it was, I touched on it earlier, like we had this, Brian Flynn had the thing at the time where it was mainly 3 centre midfielders and then either Martin Chalk or Craig Skinner on the right. And I remember me and my mates being, because it was like a running joke of like, I mean, it was effective. It was a great formation that worked, but it was a running joke of like, oh yeah, here we go, about 3 centre mids and 1 winger. And when you came into the team, it was this genuine excitement of, we're going to play with 2 wingers here. And it never really happened. It seemed like it was like, no, we'll just play Wally on the left and we'll Chalky or Craig Skinner there on the bench sort of thing. What was that like for you? Because it was a strange formation. Like I said, it was really effective, and we had so many great centre midfielders. I guess at that point you had your mix of Peter Ward, Ken Russell, Dave Brammer, Yozza the season before that, Gareth Owen, Wayne Phillips around at the time. So we had a lot of central midfielders. So you can understand wanting to get as many of them in the team as possible. But how was that for you to play with just 1 winger, which would be yourself?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think on one respect, if there's only 1 winger and you're trying to get it wide, they're only going to come my side. So in theory, you get more ball than I would normally with 2 wingers on the pitch. I think at one stage, sort of, Flynn gave me the license to switch wings when I wanted as well. Obviously, as long as I let the 3 midfield players know at the time. But I think I remember sort of Wardy saying at the time, because obviously I had a bit of pace. Sometimes when we're under the cosh, it's great for me to go, do you know what, I'm just going to turn and just put it in the corner for you to chase after. And I'd run willingly all day, really. But no, the formation was great, and you had some really good players in there who could, because what you need in a formation like that, if you're not sort of balanced off the opposite side, is that you need legs in there. And obviously you had legs with Gareth Owen and Wayne Phillips and Rooster when they played as well, and Wardy was the one sort of orchestrating all that.
Yeah. And which of the lads from that group do you keep in touch with the most in the years since you left Wrexham?
I guess it depends really. I see with me playing and then coaching and stuff, you'd see certain players down the years and within football and stuff. So probably a little bit younger than that, Steve Thomas. I ended up playing with Steve Thomas at Darlington. Always see Robbo at various times when he was working at Manchester City and obviously when he was playing and stuff. Mark McGregor, where I touched base with him when he was at Burnley and stuff. But again, it's difficult to keep in touch when you're sort of on the move and sort of the time I left as well, when there was no mobile phones as well.
That's exactly what I was thinking then. Like, it would have been hard.
You're not texting and you're not. So it was difficult really, because it was not wanting to jump ahead or anything, but my move then was massive for me, because it took me away from where I was living. It took me away from sort of my teammates who were grown up with and stuff. So it was an interesting one for me. But that's what I like about the Legends team, to be fair. It's getting everyone together. I mean, I've only played one so far at Mould, but it was great to see the lads. It really was. It was brilliant, because you never lose that banter. Even 20 years on, the banter's the same. Probably a little bit better now. We're all a bit older as well. So it's.
I don't know. I've seen some of that banter. I don't know if it's better or not.
The same banter recycled over the years, probably, but it's funnier now, I think.
Yeah. I suppose you're like, it's 20 years older. And you're thinking, oh God, as if I did that back then. When you're getting all these things brought up and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I again, going back to when I was sort of that age, I was quite a quiet lad, quite a quiet player, and so it's good for me to now. Obviously, when I've grown up, I've gone out my shell a lot more. It's good to get involved a lot more with that sort of banter when I see the boys, but. No, it really was good. I was a little bit nervous as well coming to that first Legends game to see all the lads. But no, when I got there, it was brilliant, really great set of boys as well, as you know from obviously even the WhatsApp group that we've got.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's one way to put it.
It's definitely interesting.
Yeah, the move did come to Sunderland at the end of that 97-98 season. Although you remember rightly, you missed the chunk of the end of the season because was it a hamstring injury? I think at the time, or.
Yeah, it was a weird one because we played Burnley, I think, on the Tuesday when Gareth Owen went in goal.
Yes, for the game.
And me and Delboy played down the left-hand side, and Burnley's pitch at that time, down one side, I think sort of, was it the main stand side? It was it was just full of sand for that time of the season. So it must have had a big effect on me and Del Boy, because on the Saturday, I think he came off about 3 minutes before our time with a hamstring, and then 2 minutes later, I've gone on a run, cut inside, gone past someone, and I felt a big jab in the back of my leg, and I'm thinking, I turned round, I've hit the floor, I turned round, and there's no one near me, and I'm thinking, what's gone on here? I've never really been injured before, and it felt like someone had stood me in the back of the leg, but no, hamstring had gone, and not one of my favourite injuries, because it gave me a few problems in the following couple of years, but no, it was. I think I got back for the last couple of games. I think Preston. I was on the bench for Preston and Southend. I think.
Well, when did it kind of become apparent that there was a chance to leave? That, well, I guess when Sunderland had come in, or was there any other interest before then, or around the same time? Or was it just a case of you get a call from, I guess, Price Griffiths at the time, maybe, or Brian Flynn, whatever, to say, right, we've got an offer for Sunderland. What do you think?
Well, there was rumours when we played. I think it was Fulham at home. So we played Fulham at home. Oh no, I think it was Bristol Rovers. Bristol Rovers at home it was. And I think Peter Reid was in the crowd, and there was a rumour going around, or I think it was even in the paper, that he was supposedly watching me. And I didn't believe it for a second, because Jamie Curitan, who I think is still playing now, I think.
Oh yeah, very prolific over the years.
Yeah, exactly. And he was playing, and he was doing really well. So I was saying to my dad, yeah, no chance. He'll be coming to watch Curitan. He won't be coming to watch me. I've only played a few games now. Don't be bad. So it wasn't even in my thoughts, really. And then it sort of transpired. Andy Marriott had a little chat with me to sort of say his agent had been on to him to say that there'd been interest from Sunderland and what have you. And again, that's kind of all I've really heard about it, really. Was a couple of games to go. Andy persuaded me to meet with the agent, and he sort of said, well, Sunderland interested, do you want to sign with me? And so me and my dad and my mum, we were quite non-committal about it, really. We really didn't want to sign any contract with agents or anything like that. But then it sort of went from there, really. I think it was in the summer that the call came. I'd been to Spain with the family, so I literally got home, and again, going back to no mobile phones. We'd been in the house half an hour, and the house phone rang, and it was Price Griffiths, and sort of said, we've accepted an offer from Sunderland, and we want to wish you all the best if you're going to accept. And I was kind of like, well, it's actually happening. So then after that, I didn't know anything about sort of contracts or anything like that. I didn't know what I would have been worth or what I needed to ask for. So I ended up going with the agent Andy had spoke about. And then on my way up there to Sunderland to sign, Newcastle were on the phone. Because apparently, again, unbeknownst to me, they'd been in and asked if they, I don't know whether they asked the club, or they were interested certainly in taking me on a couple of weeks trial. Me being a Liverpool fan, Kenny Dalglish was in charge.
Right, okay.
So I'm on the way up to Sunderland in the car with this new agent who I don't really know that well, and the phone rings. It's Kenny Dalglish on the phone. I'm sat in the car with my dad, both massive Liverpool fans, saying we've heard Sunderland's interest. We've heard there's a bid come in, blah blah blah. We'd like to take him now. We'd like to sign him, but before we put a bid in, is he interested? So it was a brief conversation with my dad to say, do you know what? The Sunderland one kind of fits. They were in first. We're going to go with that. And it was tough. But I can always say I turned down Kenny Dalglish, which is
like you and Roy Keane, I think, are the two people I've ever heard that said no to Kenny.
Well, it's unbelievable. Again, my hero growing up was John Barnes, and I think John Barnes was there at the time as well.
Yeah.
I think we kind of weighed it up. There's kind of 40 odd pros there, and they have no reserve team, so it's kind of like this is our sort of best opportunity. But it was weird. It was weird sort of leaving as well, because again, I've been there since 16 at Wrexham, and I had nothing but good times, really. Obviously, a few lows when you're not playing so well, or not in a team, or the odd little injury here and there. But generally, my time there was fantastic, and the fans couldn't have been better to me when I was playing. It was brilliant. But I think there was kind of a suggestion at the time, because I remember when I was at Darlington, sort of kind of years later, we went on the Isle of Man trip. And on the ferry on the way over, there's a few Wrexham fans. A few of them started giving me a bit of stick for why I left and saying I was greedy and this and that. And it was never, money was never in my head at all. I mean, again, people who know me now that probably will definitely say the same. Certainly, I took pay cuts at Darlington because I enjoyed it there, just to stay there as well, further on in my career. And it was always all about, listen, Sunderland have come in. Oh my God, this is such a big club. I want to play at the top level as much as I can. And if I turn this down now, what if I don't get the opportunity again? So it's kind of like, this is what I've been dreaming of. My first one was to be a professional footballer, amazing. But if I get this opportunity, I can't really turn it down. And yeah, I was on more money at Sunderland than there was at Wrexham. Yeah, that's a byproduct of it, but it was never about that. And it was bittersweet sort of going at that time, especially with it being in the summer, with not being able to sort of say thank you to coaches and say goodbye and stuff. And I felt there was a little bit of sort of from the fans, a little bit of, oh, why do you have to go so early? And I only, as I say, only really saw that a few years later when I was at Darlington, which it took me a little bit by surprise, really, because again, that's not me. It's not the way I live my life. So,
I think for some context, it's at this point, this was Sunderland who were in the first division, which is now a championship. The year before, I think it was they lost the playoffs was to Charlton maybe, and then the year after when you signed was when they got promoted with that 105 points to the Premier League.
Yeah, I watched the playoff final. I think it was against Charlton. I think it was 4-4 or something.
Yeah, I think that was the Clive Mendonca got the hat trick, possibly, if I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sunderland lost on penalties, and that was kind of when sort of the rumour mill was about that they were potentially interested. So I had a bit of interest in that, and I was kind of like, yeah. And then when the call came from Rice Griffiths, it was kind of like, well, that fits better as with them being in the Championship because hopefully I'll get a better chance. And as I say, it was, again, we spoke about whirlwind before. It was a whirlwind again, just another level of it. Because again, the sort of players I sort of grew up as an apprentice with at Wrexham, all of a sudden I'm in a team with you, like see Gareth Owens and Carl Connolly and Gary Bennett and Tony Humes and people like this who again you look up to, and then all of a sudden I'm then thrown into another level of sort of player. And again, I think I froze a little bit when I went up there, just to go, do you know what? Oh my God, these players are in this dressing room. Because again, as I mentioned before, I wasn't really the most outgoing of kids at the time, and life helps you along the way with that, doesn't it? It
does.
Social maturity and however. But I was 20-year-old and I was quite socially not immature, but certainly not confident in my own self. So going there off the back of a sort of hamstring injury wasn't right either, and then being in that dressing room was a little bit daunting, really. Definitely daunting, I'd use the word. But again, people always say, I speak to some sort of Wrexham fans in the past and they said, would you have done anything different? And part of me goes, do you know what? It would have been nice to play at Wrexham for another 2 or 3 years and then moved on. But then the other part of me goes, do you know what? We're all a product of our decisions in our life, and I'm happy with who I am, and I'm happy with what I've done in football, and it's been a cracking ride, to be fair.
Well, I think it was a lot of. I think we were used as fans. We were used to at that point, and the years before, and I guess years since, where because even though you only came in at 16 and been at Crewe before, Warrington born, but I believe grew up in Mold in Sugden, just down the road from Buckley. Obviously not quite as good as Buckley. Buckley Town, Bistry, Baldockers, Bistry, and Buckley. Junior football.
I played for Buckley and Bistry of a Sunday.
Did you?
12, 13, yeah.
I think mine was up to about the heavy heights of like under 15s. I think I got to there. that was it. But I think people saw you coming through as this kid into the Wrexham first team and just presumed you'd been at Wrexham all the way through, were kind of a Wrexham born and bred. And we were used to seeing those young players like that stick around for a good few years, like Gareth Owen came through and ended up staying for over a decade. Or we had Wayne that came through and played for probably 6 years maybe before he got his move. There was only, I think, Chris Armstrong, that was one where he left a little bit earlier. But we were used to seeing those young players coming through. Steve Watkin, another example, where they came through and they stayed and sometimes they'd stay until they were 30. Sometimes they'd stay for 5 or 6 years. And with yourself, it was like, oh, he's Neil Wainwright's in the first team. We've heard all about this kid in the programs from seeing the reserve games and whatnot. And then it was, like I said earlier, it was over before it even began. It was just a bit of a shock. But I don't remember any Wrexham fans that I knew, of my age anyway, that were annoyed at you. But I do remember there was a lot of beef Andy Marriott's way, because there was he's tapped him up there. He's got a hold of this young kid, and he's took him to Sunderland.
No, as I say, there was kind of, I guess, an element of that with Andy, but no, not really. He just made me aware of kind of that this might be happening. There was sort of the rumour mill, and his agent had let him know this and that. And again, to sort of play devil's advocate for Andy, he's not getting anything out of it himself. He's trying to sort of, I don't know, kind of look out for me. Do you know what? This young lad, there's an opportunity for him to go elsewhere here, whether that's to detriment to Wrexham Football Club or not at the time. He's sort of going, you know what, he's got a chance, and I kind of want to help him.
Yeah.
I'm sure the flip side of that is, I'm sure there's, I never signed a contract with the agent. I never ever signed a contract with any agent within my career. I would imagine, now having the knowledge of being in football for so long, I would imagine that it was probably tasked by someone for him to come and get me, or even working on behalf of whoever, rather than on behalf of me in terms of getting me to Sunderland. But again, I don't know the ins and outs of all sorts of that agent stuff. I've stayed clear of all. As I say, throughout my career, if I can do sort of my own contract myself, I've tried to do that down the years. But again, I just wasn't capable of that at that age. I mean, Dad didn't know enough about football, and it was there was a few bits and bobs where it was kind of like I was advised not to sign a contract, because otherwise someone would have to pay more if they came in for me and stuff. And it wasn't a nice time for me, that when the move finally went through. It was kind of like, oh, that's brilliant and stuff, but it's kind of like I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't, and I didn't have the knowledge. My dad didn't have the knowledge of football to go, do you know what, we're going to do this. We were just taking advice off someone else, and the move came across really, really well. But it just came at a time where it was kind of like, do you know what, it would have been nicer to leave, having the deal had been done. If someone had come in earlier on in the season and I'd been able to play for Wrexham for the last few games, everyone knowing I was going, and the staff knowing I was going, the players knowing I was going, the fans, and then all of a sudden it would have been a nicer way to go. But that's kind of the only thing I probably not regret, but because I never had control of it, but certainly one where I go, you know, if it was different, I'd like that to have happened.
Yeah, well, it was. You said that you were 20 at the time the move happened, and it's just, I guess, logistically, it's a big move. Just to move, for anybody to move from having grown up in the Northwest or Warrington area, Mold area, to then move to the Northeast to Sunderland. So, did your family move up with you at the time, or did you just go up there on your own? Or, I mean, I don't know, maybe with Andy Marriott, or what was?
No, well, Andy. I don't think Andy didn't come till later on in the pre-season. I don't think. Did he sign that season?
Yeah, he signed that season when I looked into it, but it seemed like he signed a month or 6 weeks or so after yourself.
Yeah, so no, there was nothing with Andy, because again, and Andy's a nice guy, but we were never sort of close, because the dynamic in a Wrexham dressing room, I just come to, as I say, just through the youth team, and he's an established pro, so there was never sort of that relationship with me and Andy anyway. But no, I moved up with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. Had to pop the question because we're moving up, didn't I, Andy? So that was the
at 20. Oh, bold.
I was married at 22, to be fair. So so we moved up together. I initially stayed in a hostel with the Sunderland youth players and a few young pros for a couple of months before my house deal went through. I actually roomed in bunk beds with Paul Heckingbottom, who I ended up playing with at Darlington later on. I was with Sunderland with, and now he's interim at Sheffield United. Isn't he?
He is, yeah. Done all right for himself.
Yeah, I know. I think he was Leeds and Hibs earlier on as well in his career, manager. So no, he's done really well. Nice lad as well. But but it was mad. Back to mobile phones again. I got given one, and I was like, oh my god, I've got a mobile phone. I know what to ring on it.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing on it. It was about that big. Not quite Del Boy, but it was all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. But the whole thing was so different to what I was used to. Even in the hostel with the young players, a lot of them Irish boys from that had signed for sort of Sunderland youth team and stuff. It was different for me. And then moving into my own house, because I never drove either. I could never pass my test till I was older. I didn't bother learning until I was 24. So it was all like this mad sort of time in my life where it was like so many things thrown at me. It was crazy, really.
Yeah. What was the kind of proposition put to you by Sunderland when you were there, you were brought in? Was it a case of we're gonna give you a crack in the reserves or whatever for a year or two and then look for the first team, or were they? Because it was Peter Reid in charge at the time, or was it a case of right, we're buying you with a view to giving you a shot in the first team this year?
Yeah, it was Reedy, and he was, to be fair to him, I mean, there was no promises made and there was no sort of plan set out for me. But when I sort of signed, he did say, listen, if you do well enough, you'll play. It's as simple as that. Just so happened at the time, I think Nicky Summerby was on the right wing and Alan Johnston was on the left wing, and they were fantastic. So they had that first season I was there in the Championship. They were unplayable, and again, my opportunity sort of came in the cup, and I did well. I did well in the games. The first one I was okay. My first game, I think it was York away in a League Cup game. I sort of played about 20 minutes and only got a few touches. There wasn't much going on, but I felt like in the other games that I played in the cup, I did as well as I could have done. One in particular, Walsall, I did really well in it and at home. So it was that where I was going, do you know what, it's going all right. But that first season killed me off a little bit because around about November, I was doing really well. As I say, playing a couple of cup games, and we played Preston in a reserve game. I scored a hat-trick. Reedy came in next day, buzzing off me, telling everyone about my hat-trick and all this sort of stuff. And then I think either the game after or 2 games after, I think played Manchester United. So any sort of bigger game, like the United or Liverpool reserve games, were played at the stadium, and the Newcastle games, because they got decent crowds. So my hamstring went again for obviously the second time, and that put me out. I think it was December that I did it, and I don't think I played properly for the rest of that season. I tried to come back 3 times, and it just kept tearing at different parts of the same hamstring. So it killed me off a little bit, and it really set me back quite a bit. I ended up seeing a chiropractor. I had an over-rotated hip that was putting more pressure on one side of my body than the other. And once that got sorted, I was all right. But that was a major thing for me because obviously I'm quick. It was the biggest part of my game was my pace, and if my hamstrings giving me problems, when you come back from a hamstring, you don't know whether it's right, so you almost don't go full speed. And me not going full speed, again, it's not my game then. So it was difficult. And then obviously in the summer, they went into the Premier League, and I think he bought Carsten Fredgaard from Denmark for 1.6 million, the winger. I think he bought John Oster from Everton, again for over $1 million, another winger. I think a little bit later on, he bought Kevin Kilban, another winger, and only Alan Johnson departed. So it was kind of like, I'm really down the pecking order here. But you could understand why, because I've been out injured, and clubs can't stand still to wait for people to come through, even if they think they've got a bit of promise. And then after that, I kind of a few more cup appearances, but never really got a look in after that. It was difficult. And obviously, back to what I was saying earlier on about me being daunted, I never really sort of backed myself to go, do you know what, I'm better than these. Whereas now I think I would.
Yeah. What was it like being around Sunderland at that time? Because you talked about that Championship season where I think it was 105 points they got, and I don't know if they won it by more than 20 points or nearly 20 points, but it was a dominant win for that side. And Kevin Phillips bagged a shed load of goals, Niall Quinn the same. How was it like to be around those players? Because I think of the Wrexham side you played with, that's one of my favourite teams to ever watch. But I mean, taking my Wrexham tinted glasses off, that's a step above. That's a step up when you've got Kevin Phillips, you've got Niall Quinn. How is it to watch players like that in and around the squad? Just that players of that quality. Yeah,
it was daunting because of that, I think, because you're thinking, oh my God, I've seen these players play on the telly, and do I deserve to be in this dressing room? Am I good enough to be in this dressing room? But then the other side going, do you know what, these players are fantastic, I can learn loads. Mickey Gray as well. Mickey Gray got an England cap when I was Thomas Sorensen, goalkeeper. He ended up over 100 caps for Denmark. Stefan Schwartz came in at one point where I remember being in Denmark on a pre-season trip, and there was rumours we were signing Stefan Schwartz. And I was like, not a chance we signing Stefan Schwartz. Been at Arsenal, Fiorentina, and they ended up signing probably about 3 days later. And it was like, oh my god, I was literally starstruck. And Steph's a lovely fella as well. And it was the time. It was great. I mean, the championship season. It was just the only thing for me was obviously there was a bit of me going like when last game of the season when you parade the trophy and stuff, and then we went on an open top bus tour, which was amazing. So many thousands of people turned out Sunderland, and you enjoy it, but you don't enjoy it as much because you're not a major part of it. So you go in, do you know what? I'm kind of on the outside looking in. This is amazing, but would have loved to have been in there doing it and it be actually my success.
Yeah,
which is kind of a little bit of a difficult thing. But then the Premier League ride was amazing. Kevin Phillips, I was speaking to someone the other day about this. I think his feat of scoring 30 goals in the Premier League for a team like Sunderland who finished 7th and he got the European Golden Shoe is a feat that's not talked about much. But I find that remarkable. It's an amazing achievement that for such a player.
Especially when you think of like the strikers who were around at that time in the Premier League, and for him to go and do that. I just thought with Kevin Phillips, I mean, I'm a Wrexham and Wales fan, but just from an England perspective, it always felt like he should have got more. I know obviously there was a lot of great English strikers around at that point in time. And Mr. Alan Shearer for a start, but I always thought like Kevin Phillips, if I was an England fan, I'd be wanting to get a bit more of a look in, really. It seemed to never quite happen for him.
Yeah, I guess it's for Kev, it was, as you say, it's just the quality that was around there at the time. You had, what did you have? Shearer, Sheringham,
Andy Cole, I guess Les Ferdinand still at that point. Yeah.
Robbie Fowler,
yeah.
As well. Yeah, Michael Owen, Emil Heskey. You can just keep reeling them off. But yeah, Kev was fantastic. And again, really nice guy, Kev, really down to earth. I see him now and again on my travels with football. I think he was at Derby at one point, not sure if he's still there. And one of his lads was at Rochdale. So, but no, he's a great lad, fantastic player. I always remember the volley he scored against Chelsea at Stadium, like absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, as you say, a little unfortunate not to get more England caps. But again, if he's in a different era or 3 or 4 years later or earlier, then you might be talking about more England caps and maybe moving on to someone else.
Yeah. Before we just move away from Sunderland, how you talk about the Stadium of Light there, you talk about the open top bus parades, and even though you maybe didn't feel like you said, like you felt like you were kind of outside looking in on that.
Yeah.
Just how, because I've never been to the Stadium of Light. I've never been to any games in the Northeast. I don't think, apart from ones on like Wrexham's level. But you always hear about the Newcastle fans, the Sunderland fans, the Borough fans, and how passionate and insane they are. Like how were those Sunderland fans for you?
The Sunderland fans are unbelievable. Again, any teams up in the Northeast, I kind of equate them to sort of the Liverpool area as well. The same sort of types of people and passion. The only difference probably in the Northeast is it's that serious that when they're behind you, they're fantastic, but it can be difficult when things aren't going well as well. I remember some games at Stadium, like even when the team were doing really well, if some teams come to defend and you're only keeping the ball or trying to move the ball across the back, and the booing starts after 15, 20 minutes. This is proper sort of unforgiving football. But yeah, the fans are amazing, and again, big parts of any football club, as we've seen these last couple of days. With all this Super League stuff, and I'm lucky to have, I think, played with teams that have got fantastic supporters. Sunderland, Wrexham, Darlington fans were really good to me as well. So I can't Morecambe for such a small crowd. The fans are so embedded. It's so embedded in what they do in day to day. It's really difficult to see some fans now when they can't go to games. It's almost like they're missing a limb. I'm sure you're the same.
Totally, mate. And in Wales as well, because there was a brief spell in England where fans could go to games, but Wales, it's been nothing. And I, where I'm sat now recording this, I'm all of a 5-minute walk to the racecourse. It's like I can see the floodlights here. And then you watch the streams, and it's like you see the ground, and it's like really I could be there. It's just around the corner.
Really same at all. Any game you watch, it's just not the same. And I think football's realising now how important the fans are, which is a good thing, I guess. But whether the fans will get more power, I don't know. But no, I've lucky to have played in front of some great crowds and great supporters, and Sunderland was certainly one of those as well.
Yeah, and one final question before we get away from Sunderland, which I can't not ask. Peter Reid, you hear about one of the game's great characters, and I know everybody seems to have a Peter Reid story. And like I asked Mark McGregor about his time at Burnley with Gaza, and everyone's got a Gaza story. Everyone's got a Glenn Little story. Any Peter Reid stories that you think of that come to mind that are suitable to share?
I remember a trip to I think it was after we won the championship. We had a trip to Marbella. So the club paid for a trip for us to go to Marbella. So we were all in Marbella, and Mickey Gray got a little bit drunk one night and was up in Reedy's face, calling him some names. Wow. We'll just leave it there. And and anyway, I didn't drink at the time, so Reedy and Bobby was sort of saying, Wayne, take him back to the hotel. And I'm kind of going, I don't really want to go back to the hotel, not with a drunk Mickey Gray taking him back. Anyway, Bawley's come over and he goes, I'll take him back. So Bawley's took him back. But then Reedy punished him by saying he had to pay for the lads' food the next night, and he took Mickey's card. So it was all on Mickey's credit card by a Peter Reid in this posh restaurant with Lamborghinis and Ferraris outside and all sorts. So I hate to see what the bill would have been, but it would have been a big one. But yeah, there was no prisoners. But I think the respect was always there for Reedy. He was very much a match day manager, very much a motivator of players. And when he was happy with you, you knew it. When he was unhappy with you, you knew it as well. And so you knew where you stood. And he was fantastic. And again, fantastic for the club, really. And I was always grateful, obviously, because he signed me, you see. Yeah, I would have liked to have gone better, but he was one that gave me that opportunity.
Yeah, well, you had a couple of loan spells at that time, but when you did finally make the permanent move, which was to Darlington, who'd been on at loan, I think it was early that season or the season before. What was it? Why Darlington? I mean, obviously they were, by all accounts, a great club. Obviously had their troubles years later, and like you said, the fans there seemed like a really great bunch. But what was it about Darlington that sold you to him then? And were there any other clubs in at the time as well?
Initially, I just needed games. So when I was at Sunderland, I just needed some games, and I think it was either Bobby Saxton or Adrian Heath come to me and sort of said, you've got an opportunity to go to Darlington. They want you for the weekend. They're live on Sky on Sunday. I think we played Peter live on Sky. So I think this was the Friday. So I would have got an opportunity to train with them, I think, on the Saturday and then play on the Sunday. So I was kind of like, yeah, do you know what? I've had not much game time, certainly first team wise. I need to sort of get myself out there and enjoy my football again. So yeah, let's go for it. And it was probably the best loan spell you could wish for, really. Great set of lads going for promotion. I scored on my debut in that Sky game to make it 2-0. And I was just me again. I was just back to being me again, sort of the me that was at Wrexham, and feeling free to run past players and enjoy my football. And it was fantastic. And it was almost like, yeah, I'm back type thing. I think I scored 3 in my first 6 games or something like that. And everything was going well. There was talks of permanent move, but they couldn't afford to pay the fee. And at that time, I didn't want to go from Sunderland because I thought I wanted one last chance to have another go at it. But this loan spell was really good for me to go, do you know what? You can still play. Whereas I was doubting myself. And it was kind of like, you know what, you've still got the ability to do it. And I think the reason I ended up going there permanently was because I had a loan spell at Halifax the season after under Paul Bracewell, which went well as well. I enjoyed that one. Played a little bit deeper. Played as a wing back in that one, which was an interesting one for me again for my sort of development as a player. It was an interesting to play in a different position, but we still have freedom to go forwards. But then after that, it was I was kind of getting to the point because I signed a 4-year deal, and then it was the very beginning of my 4th season, and it was kind of like I'm not going anywhere now. But whereas before with the loan spell at Darlington, I was going to, I'm going to give it another go. I was at the point where, I was like, I need to go permanently now. I kind of just went, again, the school of thought would be go from Premier League straight to drop down a little bit and then a little bit further, but I would have had to wait to drum up a little bit more interest, and I kind of wanted to go then. So whether it was the right decision to go straight from Premier League down to Division 3 or whatever it was at the time, I don't know. But I'd had a really good experience at Darlington with the players, the staff, the fans. The fans were fantastic. And I just craved that again. So that's why I ended up going there. And to be fair, again, I can't regret it because I had 7 fantastic seasons there with a fantastic support. Who, when I played, I always played to please people. So coming into the Wrexham team when things are going well and the crowd are cheering and chanting your name, even if they were chanting Wally, was great. And again, I craved that throughout my career. Whether it's ego, whether it's not, I don't know. But it was kind of, that's what got me going. That's what gave me the buzz. That's what gave me the excitement to play. And I got that at Darlington. I got that from the fans. And if things weren't going well for me and I was maybe been dropped, they'd be clamouring for me to come on the pitch. When I come on, there'd be big cheers, and all of a sudden you feel 10 foot tall and you feel like a player again. And it is just, that's why I made the move, because it was kind of like, it's a fit. It fits me. And it fit me at the time, and as I say, I enjoyed my whole time there.
Yeah, I think because there was the loan spell, there was the long spell, and then there was another spell. So in there's 3 spells. I think it's over 250 games you played there. So that's a lot of games.
The last spell was when they were struggling for money, and I'd kind of finished. So I'd kind of finished playing. So I played with Craig Liddell, and he was the manager at the time, and I'd just done my knee. I'd done my knee, and I'd been out for 3 months, but I'd done it in like playing in a charity game. So I wasn't playing like football. And he called me up. I'd literally had one training session, and he said, "We need players. We can't sign anyone. We can only sign free agents and under 18s because of the money. You want to come and help me out?" And I was kind of like, you know what? Again, I don't know if it was ego kicking in or what, but I thought, you know what, it'd be great to just hear my name and get chanted again, just one more time. And it was fantastic. I wasn't the me of old, and I wasn't quite as sharp and as quick. But I went back there for 3 months, played about 12 or 13 games, I think, or something like that. In a bit of pain. My knee was all right, but my calves were going and stuff. So it was great to be able to do that. So kind of like, what I spoke about before, of not being able to, almost say goodbye when I left Wrexham. That was kind of my farewell, not just to sort of Darlington, but my career as well. So it was a nice sort of fitting end, really.
Yeah. But like I said, that was like the bulk of your career was played at Darlington. What was, say, I don't know, pick in the middle of that main Darlington run or towards the end, when I guess when you'd be hitting what would be classed as your peak, what was the difference between that Neil Wainwright and the Neil Wainwright that broke into the Wrexham first team as a 19-year-old kid?
The Wrexham Wainwright, I would say, is the best one, because I had no fear. I had no. I just played football. Whereas when I'm older, there's all sorts of other things to think about, but I literally just went, and again, that's partly down to the staff. The staff allowed me to play like that. I was like Joey and Kev and Brian Flynn. It was I was just kind of me playing football, and there was just pure utter joy doing it. And yeah, I'd make mistakes, but it kind of wasn't that important. I was making mistakes, and it was kind of more important that I was doing some really good stuff as well. And I was vibrant, I was sharp, I was closing people down where other people wouldn't close people down, because you think, what's the point in doing that?
Yeah.
And that'd be me later on in my career, possibly towards the end. So, you know,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to bother closing him now. But yeah, it was that was kind of me, really. And to sort of bottle that me and combine it with the me of now, who's now been coaching for sort of 8 or 9 years, I think you get a really, really good player. Not quite got that pace anymore, though. That's a problem.
No. That was explosive pace back then. It was just refreshing to see. But with Darlington, one thing to touch on, because this podcast is the Wrexham Legends Lounge podcast, so it's obviously Wrexham driven, Wrexham based. But what happened there with the club, for people that maybe weren't aware, with the financial difficulties, and obviously they end up having to be wound up, and Wrexham ourselves was so close to something similar happen. So what was the situation there?
Yeah, basically the sort of bad investment, I guess. They built a new stadium. George Reynolds built a new stadium, and he kind of, along with that, was expecting to be able to build on the land around it and be able to use it for car boot sales and for concerts and all sorts of these plans. But those plans were never okayed by the council at the time, and they were never going to be okayed by the council at the time. So again, that was kind of the crux of where it's all started to go wrong. And then obviously different owners, with possibly not the interests of Darlington to hand after that, and it kind of just got worse and worse and worse, really. And then to the point where the club literally really nearly did go out of existence. Yeah, it's technically restarted in a new name, but all in all, they're still Darlington Football Club now. It's just it was sad. It was really, really sad, again, because I was when they did eventually go. It was at that last spell that I was there, so I kind of saw it go to the wire, kind of thing. Yeah. Relegate and relegated down 4 divisions after that, or whatever it was. And it was sad, and it's not good to see. Certainly the club I loved and the club I played for so many years. But any club, like Bury, we've seen it with Bury recently. Yeah. It's not just about football clubs; it's about whole communities and people and years and years of history, and it's really sad. And that's why it's amazing to see what's currently happening with Wrexham, and hopefully that sort of we'll look back in 5 years and go, that's the catalyst to what's put us where we are now, and it's hopefully quite in a lively position in the Football League.
Yeah,
you don't know where it's going to go. You could absolutely soar, couldn't you? But so hopefully that'll be a good thing, and that's the exciting thing for Wrexham fans, I think.
Just not the National League. That's all I'm asking. It's like it's easy to think of, like, in 5 years we're going to be pushing on to maybe getting a championship, and all it's going to be great, or we might even be in the chat. But right now, it's just get me out of this National League. It's
a difficult one. You've seen the amount of money put into some of the clubs down the years. I think Forest Green had a massive budget when they were in the conference.
Fleetwood, Crawley before that. Yeah. The Fleetwood one where we were top at Christmas and ended up getting, I think it was 98 points. And Fleetwood went out in the January and just cherry-picked everybody's best players, took Lee Fowler from us. We, because it's only one automatic promotion spot, then you end up in the playoffs, and the playoffs haven't been too kind to Wrexham.
That's a difficult thing, isn't it? And again, you've had some big clubs in there. So you like Luton Towns and Bristol Rovers were there, and Leyton Orient, and again, it just shows how difficult it is. Now, if you'd have said to me all that time ago that Wrexham would be out of the league for so long, I'd have laughed in your face. But it's just so difficult to get back out of that league. And hopefully, maybe this season, we'll see.
Maybe.
But hopefully we can certainly see some improvements next year with the investment that's been put in anyway.
I remember the sense of optimism after the very first game in the National League, where it was one of those like typical opening game of the season at the Racecourse where it's all sunny and bright and the pitch looks like $1 million. And we're playing Stevenage, who have been this big talked up team with money behind them, very much fancied to be the favourites promotion, and we turned them over 5-0. With 10 men, we turned them over 5-0, and it was like, right, this is going to be easy. And then just no. Not so much so. Then we got turned over, I think, by Accrington. Maybe
that's the thing nowadays. I think as the years progress, the levels and quality of each division go up. So League Two quality is better than it has been in recent years, but certainly the conference is almost very, very similar to League Two, in my opinion. Certainly the quality of teams in there. I think if you put a few of the top teams in there now, they wouldn't struggle too badly.
Yeah.
And again, you look at the teams that are down there now. You've got Grimsby. Grimsby are struggling. They look like they've almost gone with a few games to go. So again, you've got another decent side and another big side going out of the Football League, and again potentially Southend as well.
Yeah, it's a massive one, Southend. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was before we get onto like the questions from the fans here? You said you're at Morecambe now doing some coaching there with the academy. You had a dabble in management as was it co-manager, player co-manager? I guess would it be at Lancaster City.
Player co-manager, yeah, that was an experience, that one. I think it was about 3 or 4 months. I kind of went there just to play, just to be locally. I think I was getting 60 quid to go and play, and it was kind of like, you know what, I'll just go and play some football. And then I think the chairman was in charge, and he kind of didn't want to do it. So he was like, because I was I had a little bit of an injury, and I kind of sort of led from the sideline.
Yeah.
And kind of like, well, do you know, quite like this. And he sort of said to me and another guy, Michael Stringfellow, who I ended up doing the job with, do you fancy doing the job? We were kind of like, you know what, let's give it a bit of a go. And I'd say for 3 or 4 months, I enjoyed bits of it, but it kind of put me off managing, because I'm thinking it was part-time. We were only training Tuesday and Thursday nights, but I was literally, again, you spoke to my missus, I was literally never off the phone. I'm quite bad now, but I was never off the phone. And it was kind of like, I'm not sure this is a viable thing. And then there was a few things going on behind the scenes with a few directors and things. And I'm thinking, for 60 quid, this is not worth the hassle that I'm going through here. And then further down the line, I'm not sure if I was a manager, even at a league club, I could deal with defeats, because they mean too much to me. As a manager, I think I take it on board a little bit too much, and then that's affecting everything at home and stuff. So yeah, youth football's where I think I'm meant to be as a coach, and I enjoy it. And at the minute, I'm head of coaching for the academy, so a lot of that's for progression of coaches and helping their improvements and getting their badges and stuff, which is enjoyable.
Yeah. Right. Some quick questions here then. The first two are just from me. As in, was there ever any chance of you coming back to Wrexham over the years? Did that ever rear its head, even there's a slight possibility?
Not that I knew of. No, nothing. No. I've heard. I always enjoy coming back. I think I came back for one game. Was it an FA Cup game? I think it was an FA Cup game. And I think someone had told me, it was when Dennis Smith was in charge. And apparently in the press conference the day before, someone had asked him a question about me, and they'd said something like, have you got plans to deal with Neil Wainwright, or something along those lines. And he kind of said, well, yeah, sometimes when he plays well, he plays well, but more often than not, he's rubbish or something like that, or he's not very good. And it's kind of like, right, okay. And I think we won 2-0, and we just changed formation. And I came away going, you know what, happy days. But it was weird. It was always weird going back. I think I went back maybe 4 times as an opponent, and it was quite strange each time. Really quite strange.
Yeah. And one of the loan spells you did have at one point was a brief spell at Shrewsbury. Now, how did they take to you being ex-Wrexham? Did they pick up on that? Was it a thing? The fans.
That was a weird loan spell. That one. That was a weird loan spell. Yeah, that no one really picked up on it. I don't think. Not that I knew of. Not that I heard. But yeah, it was. I went there, and the manager said to me, first game, he said, "I'm going to bring you on at half time." I said, "Half time?" I said, "Well, what if we're winning like 3-0 or whatever?" He went, "No, I'm definitely bringing you on at half time." And sure enough, he brought me on at half time. I think it was 0-0 at the time. I just thought that was the most bizarre thing ever. What if things were flying? Would he still brought me on? I think he actually would have. And then one of the games was against Darlington, so I couldn't have played. And one was a cup game, so I was cup tied. So I think I ended up playing like 2.5 games in a loan spell. I had a bit of a groin injury at the time as well. And then that was it. Not a successful one, I don't think.
No, that totally reminds me of a manager I had in obviously way lower level on like a 7-a-side league. And it got to a point where he'd had this thing of like, right, it was me and another lad in centre mid, and it was like we'd only played one centre mid because it's only 7s, and it was like, right, well, if you start this game, you're going off at half time because he's coming on, and if he starts the game, and that was it. We'd only And there'd be like times where I'd be the one on the bench and like the other lad would be playing really well. It's like, I don't want to come on. He's playing really well. No, that's it. That's the rules. Like, but you're making this rule. It's ridiculous. What it just.
Well, it's kind of what we do in academy football because they have to play a certain amount of time. So you have to play a certain amount of minutes. So it's kind of what we do, but it was done at first team level. It's really strange. Really strange.
Yeah, it's like you'd bag a couple of goals, and you'd be like, you'd be the one hooked at half time. It's like, idiot. Right, some questions that have come in on Twitter. Barry Ellison wants to know what was the best game you played at Wrexham. I don't mean if that means for Wrexham or at Wrexham. In case I don't maybe a Darlington one you're on about.
I know what Baz is on about. We used to do when we were apprentices. Barry was an apprentice with us at Wrexham, and we used to.
I remember this was the question. There was an extra little comment on it that I didn't include, so I wasn't sure what it was about. I thought it might not be best to touch it.
Thought it was something a little bit dodgy. No, what we used to do because we had jobs at the racecourse, so you had the big washing machine, the big dryer, and then you had the kit room with all the pigeonholes in. So we used to have because we'd be there from training from 9 o'clock in the morning till really, really late, especially if David Rhodes was checking our jobs because he was, if he was in a bad mood, he'd keep me till 5 o'clock. So basically we used to make up our own game. So we had a little game where we'd have a kit basket and you'd have one bounce to put the ball in and come back out and keep putting it on. You get points for certain things. And then we had another game where you had to put the ball in the pigeonholes and it had to stay in. So you got a point every time it stayed in. And whoever's on kit with you, you'd play the games. And then every now and again, you get some more lads coming down and playing. And then Marlene would kick off because there was too much noise going on or we'd break something. So, but actual game, it's got to be my first one. Blackpool away.
That sounds like a good choice, to be fair. That's one that lives long in the Wrexham fans' memories from that point in time. Steve Carlton was asking about Andy Marriott, which we've covered that already. Steve Jones mentioned that you always supplied a good PA box biscuit. I think he's on the Wrexham announce team. And then we've got a load of questions here from Red Passion. This is where it gets into food territory. I guess biscuits are food territory.
Biscuits is food, yeah.
Yeah.
What I used to do, when I wasn't playing, I'd always pop into the little booth where the announcer was.
Just by the tunnel. Yeah, as it used to be in the paddock. Yeah.
And I'd always... It'd be almost like a little match day ritual. And then I end up bringing some biscuits in and we'd have a chat and then watch them do the stuff on the scoreboard. It was quite fun before the game and then watch the game and then come back in, have a little chat. And it was really good. Really good. That's what's a good thing about football is you meet some fantastic people and you have some really good experience, not just on the pitch, but away from it as well.
Yeah. And Crooks on Red Passion was asking, do you wish you stayed at Wrexham for first team football or even gone elsewhere for first team football rather than take that big jump to Sunderland at the time? In hindsight, I guess. It's a wonderful thing.
I guess, yeah. Weighing it up on that, either I'm split myself, to be fair. I guess I'll still say there's that decision where would it have come again? I don't know whether that chance would have come again. So I'd have to take that opportunity. But yeah, I really would have liked to play for Wrexham for a few more years because it's a fantastic club, yeah.
Yeah.
So split on that one. I'll sit on the fence on that one.
It's one of them where, obviously, as a Wrexham fan, I'd love for you to have stayed along for another few more years. But there is that thing of it's a big opportunity at that point in time. A team that had nearly got into the Premier League will get into the Premier League. So I don't think anyone can hold it against you in that regard. But kind of tied to that, next question's from Harry Potter on Red Passion. Who is asking, because obviously you were there in the system for 4 years, 2 as an apprentice, 2 in the first team as a pro. But Wrexham wasn't like you've been at the club for through all the youth ranks, as it were. So Harry Potter is asking, did you see the club as a stepping stone? Did you always know you go on to play at a higher level? But did you expect it to be so soon that you go on to play at that higher level?
No, it was. I didn't expect it. I didn't think of it as a stepping stone. I just wanted to become a professional footballer, and I just wanted to. Again, I never foresaw that move coming. My goal was always to become a professional footballer. Once I was an apprentice, I wanted to play for Wrexham, and I wanted to be on that pitch playing for Wrexham. And again, that I guess me doing well initially and bursting on the scene, I'm sure my pace helped. It helped me to get a move, luckily. But it was no, it was never to go, do you know what? I've got this plan to go here and then move on to there and then move on to there. Yes, as a young player, I'm sure if you give me an opportunity, you play as high as you can. But And that was certainly the case when the move came about. But no, it was never in my thoughts to use the club as a stepping stone, or even have a thought of playing the Premier League or Championship at that time. It was just kind of be a professional. It was just, it went in stages for me. So a little bit of rejection at Crewe because I was quite small. Mick Buxton came in, signed me at Wrexham, signed as an apprentice. There's my achievement. Where's my next one? It's to become a pro. When Brian Flynn told me in the office at the end of the season that he was going to offer me a professional contract, amazing, brilliant. And then the next step is then just trying to become a professional footballer and get on that pitch. Got on the pitch, made my debut, brilliant. And then that's just how I thought. I didn't really think ahead. I didn't have a plan. It was just that's how it was. And again, I guess that's how it was described as a whirlwind before with yourself. We use those words, but it was that's kind of, again, I had no plan, no process, but that's just how it happened, I guess.
Yeah. A question here that's kind of relevant, but maybe not relevant now because of how the mad last 2 days have been. From Moyne Keep the Faith on Passion again. If you were playing now, for example, Newcastle in the Premier League, how would you feel about the European Super League? Obviously, when this question was typed, it was still a thing. At the moment, it's still technically a thing because as of this recording, I think there's 4 clubs still in it. None of the English teams are supposedly in it now. So and who knows by the time this podcast goes out what the crack will be with the Super League. But what would you have thought about that if you were playing in the Premier League?
I hated it. I absolutely hated it because what you've got is because they're trying to replace the Champions League. So they're all going to remove themselves from the Champions League and then go and play in the European Super League. So even if you were to go, the European Super League is all the best teams. Even if you liked that concept, which is horrendous without promotion or relegation, it just leaves the whole domestic leagues pointless. It just makes everything irrelevant. So whether those teams are still in it or not in it. So if those teams are playing the Super League and they're still in the Premier League, you might get a 7th place team playing in the Champions League, or if those teams are gone from the Premier League, it's just not the same. It's just not the same in terms of, or if the Champions League's done away with and there's no qualification for the Champions League and there's no top 4, then all of a sudden there's loads of teams playing for virtually nothing. It just didn't make any sense to me in terms of any sort of resemblance of competition. So again, a lot of these owners are American and they don't like relegation because they don't like failure. But there's got to be failure in sport and in competition. Otherwise, you won't have success. My dog's making an appearance now.
See, my cat was trying to get in before. I've shut the door. I've put I've blocked it off so she can't get in. But I just did this like scratching just because she's a pain in the ass when she wants to.
To be fair, we've done all right because he's every time a car goes past around about this time, he's normally whining and thinks it's me missus. So we've done all right so far.
Right, I'll try and get this wrapped up so it's just in time for the missus getting back.
She'll be in the hour, don't worry.
Oh, all right, okay. Just hiding somewhere, leaving you to this obviously very important video call and audio call we're doing. Colonel D on Passion. I guess this one's kind of been covered already, but if you've got any extra thoughts, obviously fire away. Blackpool away was one of your best games for us. What do you remember about it? So anything else you want to add on the Blackpool game?
I remember scoring it, and then I remember I think we were in the next day, obviously with there being lots of games around Christmas time. I think we must have been within the next day, whatever day it was. I don't even know what day it would have been. And we were at the training ground. I'm going, oh my God, I can't wait to watch the highlights in the training ground when everyone's there. It's going to be brilliant. And they turned the telly on, and it just cut out before the game came on. And everyone's going, oh, we're not going to get the seagull. Then it came back on, and then just sitting in there, just watching it again, just made it all the more kind of surreal. It was kind of like, wow, yeah, it was amazing.
How was it in the changing room after the game then? As this the young whippersnapper as it was, what you'd be 18, maybe 19 by then. How was that to go into that dressing room, knowing not only have you made your debut, you've come on and won the game right to the death? What was the reaction from all the lads then?
Do you know what? I have absolutely no recollection of the changing room. The only thing I remember is obviously again watching it back as well. Oh, sure.
Oh, there we go.
Is the the reaction of the players on the pitch. It was just amazing. Obviously, last minute winners are brilliant. But I watch it back and I look at Macca's face, and Macca's almost like surprised but celebrating at the same time. It's great. But no, I don't recall any sort of celebration in the changing room or anything from the changing room afterwards. I'm sure there was some great words from Joey and the staff, but no, I probably just one of those things where it's just completely just blown my mind.
Yeah. Yesti on Repassion here is asked, who did you play with in the youth team that didn't make it, but you thought that they either could have made it or should have made it, really?
Ooh, there's some really good players in the youth team, to be fair. A few Scouse boys who kind of never made that step up. 2 seconds just later now. The joys. Terence Brown was a really, really good footballer, I thought. Terence was a Scouse kid who was also a winger. He was kind of the opposite type of winger to me. So he was kind of more sort of not pace, but more sort of 1-2s and little clever passes in and around people and nutmegging people and going around that way. But he's a really good little footballer, was Terry. But I think, I don't know whether it would be possibly, and looking back now, I couldn't tell you why he never made it further on, whether it be with my coach's head on, it might be, who knows, temperament, psychology, or it might just been physicality and size. But no, we had some really good players within the youth team, to be fair. And again, some of them in our sort of WhatsApp group, aren't they? Some of the Wrexham Legends group. So,
yeah,
like I said, Bob Morris and Andy Griffiths and David Walsh and Julian Pepper and people like that. All really, really good footballers. Gareth Wilson, Andrew Thomas. You could go on. There's loads of good footballers, and again, it's quite a few of them go on to play in the Welsh National League. So they've all had a decent little career. So it's good to see. But no, we had some cracking little players. We had some great times as youth team players. Great times.
Yeah. Some of the more random questions that we're getting to now. This is where the food kind of kicks in a little bit. Matt W on Red Passion's got 2 questions here. The first one, during your time at Kendal, which you're at on loan, I believe, was that permanent, Kendal? Yeah,
it was very brief. That was just after I'd left Morecambe. That one, yeah.
Right.
You're gonna ask about mint cake?
Yes. That's exactly it. The question was, did you hear anyone actually refer to the club as the Mint Cakes, or is that just a nickname that got used in the local newspapers?
No, they are referred to as the Mint Cakes, to be fair. I don't think I've actually ever eaten Kendal Mint Cake, but no, it's they are the Mint Cakes. Okay. We had a game last night against them. Our youth team played them last night, actually.
Oh, right, okay. So that's confirmed then. The Mint Cakes is a real thing. And the real thing. Yeah, the second question from Matt is, you had a spell on loan at Halifax. So do you prefer, this is kind of testing your music knowledge, I think. Do you prefer the Shaman or the 90s pop rave act, the Shaman? These are good. And Forever People, I think, was the other tune.
I was never a fan of the Shaman as in the band. So yeah, I'd prefer the Halifax.
Yeah, I told you these questions were going to get weird.
To be fair, that was it was an interesting, again, quite a memorable loan spell for me, because my wife was pregnant with my first daughter at the time. So it was back in, it would have been 2001. It would have been 2001, and we stayed there in a flat over Christmas, and she was heavily pregnant. So it was all very, very bizarre and weird, and snowing, and some of the memories you get are just strange, aren't they? When you look back, but yeah.
This one's from Wayne 1983. Is it tea or is it dinner? I'm presuming the evening meal, tea or dinner?
Oh, it's evening meal.
Yeah.
Oh, it's tea. Yeah.
I'd go with that. And also on that one, there was a Sugden Reds chimed in to say that you grew up in Sugden, so it definitely would be tea. So yeah,
it's definitely tea. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Oswestry Red. Now this one for me is the make or break one. This is a big one.
This one you're talking about before, isn't
it? It is. This is the big one. So forget all your footballing career. Forget the things you've done, the clubs you played for. This is the most important question. I'll set the stage. It's just Sunday morning. You've got a bacon butty, red sauce or brown sauce?
On bacon.
Yeah.
Red.
Oh, disappointing. I should have asked this right at the beginning. I could have stopped the interview.
To be fair, I would go red or brown on bacon, but I'd definitely go red on sausage.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind going either way on bacon, but sausage has definitely got to be red.
You sound like it's very political, that bacon answer.
It is. And I'd also like to add an egg as well, to be fair, but you know.
Yeah. Egg and brown sauce with the bacon, that'd be my thing.
Yeah.
So we've got that answer. One, to bring it back to football, Prodigal Dragon had got in touch to ask, what's your biggest footballing regret?
Biggest footballing regret?
Or is there one?
I don't believe in regrets. There's things you'd maybe look at and go and look at it down two roads and go, what would have happened if I'd done this? But again, as I said earlier on, I think we are the products of our decisions in our lives, and I'm quite happy where I am now. So yes, as I mentioned before, potentially a good side of maybe staying at Wrexham and would have given me a couple more great years, would have been brilliant. But I wouldn't have turned down that opportunity again. So I think I'd make the same decision. And again, with any sort of decisions, good or bad, within my life, I think they throw up different things, don't they? So they throw up different experiences and different times within your lives. So yeah, I don't believe in regrets.
Yeah. One Wrexham player that you wish you could have played with that you never got the chance from, or before your time, after your time, somewhere you've either seen him from the stand or on the TV and thought, it would have been good to play with him at the racecourse.
Probably Truns, I think.
Yeah,
probably Truns. I would say probably from sort of my time, obviously trained with him and stuff. But I don't think I actually played in a game with Benno. I had to play with Benno. Same with Yozza. I don't think I played, certainly not first team game with Yozza. So yeah, them sorts of players. Again, we look back on all these players are named. They're great players, aren't they?
Yeah.
To play with Wrexham. Fantastic players.
Yeah. And now, just to wrap it up, this is the big bit now. This is where you've got to probably offend a lot of players and you've got to pick your all-time Wrexham 11 from your time at the club. No pressure, mate. No pressure.
It's tough. So, yeah, in goal, well, going back to our earlier conversation, I've gone with our lopsided formation that I played in. So I've gone for 3 midfielders and 1 winger. There's a few contentious positions, I've got to say. There's a few I'm still not sure on. But I've gone Andy Marriott in goal. Macca right back. Tony Humes and Brian Carey centre halves. Left back was tough. Left back was really tough. I've gone Phil Hardy, but I really, really like playing with Darren Brace. I really like playing with Del Boy. So Del Boy's just missing out, but I don't think I could leave Phil Hardy out, to be fair. Midfield, I've gone for Peter Ward as your sitting midfield player, or the deeper one of the three, with Gareth Owen and Wayne Phillips. I'm so close to putting Rooster in. I'm so close to putting Rooster in. But yeah, I could quite easily change that tomorrow and put Rooster in. But no, I think you're getting a good blend there, because the guys got great quality, and well, they all three have got great quality, but they bring different bits, different energies, and Wayne could run all day as well, which is great for certainly if you're only playing with 1 winger. And the 1 winger is Carl Connolly.
All right, okay.
I was going to play him up top, but I wanted to play. I've got Robbo in there up top. Because I love playing with Robbo. He was because we played together in the youth team, and we kind of had a really good understanding. Certainly when I was on the left hand side, I knew if I had a man tight marking me or putting pressure on me, I knew I could just toss it around the corner and it'd be into Robbo, and he'd make it stick.
Yeah,
and he'd make it stick and lay someone off, or I'd go inside myself and get it back off him. So he was really good to play with. And then again, Benno's in there. You've got to put Benno in there. So Benno and Neil Roberts up front. But Watco's very unlucky, isn't he?
Yeah, very.
So Watco's in my brackets there. So Watco, Rooster, and Del Boy, very close. In fact, there's loads more, but them three in particular were very close to my team. So yeah, that's why I went for that formation. So I was going to go for a load of midfield players, but I thought, no, in order to get them strikers in, I've got to put Carl on the left.
Nice. That's a very good team, though. I was surprised you didn't put yourself in. It's an option. Mark McGregor did.
Yeah, no. Macca's reasoning was that no one else will pick him. I don't think anyone else will pick me either, because I wasn't there very long. But no, I just I'm picking it, so it's my team. So I guess if I was if I was to play in it, I could always sub myself on. But no, to put that team together, yeah, it was hard enough leaving people out. I thought it's easy to leave me out, I think.
You won't offend yourself. That's the way of looking at it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for giving up so much time. It's been a long one. So I thought Macca was going to be the longest one we'll probably do for a long time, and this has gone even longer than that.
Oh, I definitely talk too much.
No, nothing wrong with that. It makes my job easier. Thanks for everybody that sent in questions as well. That's massively appreciated. But yeah, this will be, as you listen to this, be sure to subscribe, like, comment if you're watching it on YouTube. Subscribe and make a review if you listen to it on any of the usual podcast platforms, which I'm sure they'll be on by now. But yeah, this has been episode 3 of the Wrexham Legends Lounge. Neil Wainwright, thanks so much for giving up so much of your time. And be well, mate.
Top man, Andy. Loved it.
Wrexham is the name. Wrexham.